One morning I was making breakfast for Rachel. She was at the age where she was out of a high chair but using a booster seat. I was in the kitchen, and I got out that bright blue plastic booster and put it at the end of the kitchen's L-shaped bench. Then I called Rachel to come and eat. She climbed onto the bench, picked up the booster, and moved it from the end, nearest me, to the middle of the long bench. I didn't really mind, but now I have to reach across the table to give her breakfast. So I asked her, "Baby, why'd you have to move the chair from the end to the middle? Mummy's going to have to reach across the table to give you breakfast." She said, "Sorry, Mama, but there's a man sitting there." And she pointed to the end of the bench. I was used to Rachel's ghostly proclamations at this point. She had talked to my husband's dead father, after all, got visits from her deceased grandmother, and once asked my husband to move the cows in the living room because they were blocking her view of the television. So I just let it go and went on with putting the finishing touches on her breakfast. But when I turned around to hand her the bowl of oatmeal, I noticed her legs were crossed, causing her to lean forward on the booster. Worried that she would fall forward, I asked her to straighten out her legs. She said she couldn't. "Why, baby?" I asked. "Because the man is tickling my feet," she said. Impossibly, I understood what was going on. No, I didn't see the man. No, I didn't see hands reach out and tickling her feet. But I did remember that when my grandfather, Rachel's great-grandfather, would visit me after church, he would sit with his top coat on, hat on the bench next to him, and a cup of coffee on the table, in the exact spot that Rachel was telling me a man now sat. And I also knew it was my grandfather for another reason. Because when I sat with Papa when I was a toddler, and he sat next to me at the end of the bench by the back door in the exact kitchen, he would reach out under the table and tickle my feet.
When I was younger, my family rented an old house that we lived in until I was 5. At this point, it's quite hard for me to remember much from that time since I was so young. There are a handful of things that I've been told that happened mostly having to do with me at that house, so I decided to finally share some. My father told me that when I was very young, before I could even walk, I would sit on the living room floor and just stare at something. My eyes would follow something that he couldn't see until one day he went to get me my bottle and left me in the living room with the raccoon toy. As he rounded the corner from the hall into the living room, he saw me staring at a glowing ball. It was just floating there and then disappeared. Another time, I was maybe 1 or 2, and my older sister was playing with one of her friends. I was in one of those rolling baby walkers, just doing whatever. My sister and her friend were playing with the ball, even though my mom and dad had told her to take the ball outside and throw it around. One of them threw the ball and missed. The ball slammed into a glass ceiling light and smashed it. I happened to be under that light. You'd think that the shards of glass would hit me somewhere, but it didn't. Even the tray of the walker was clear of glass. It had completely avoided me. My father believes it was the same thing that caused the glowing ball of light. My father is a firm believer in ghosts, having had many experiences that are not easily explainable. He is insistent that the house had someone or something living in it. A few of his experiences were seeing a shadow in the window in the basement when he was doing laundry. It wasn't a shadow of feet or something that could have been human, since that window was close to the ground. It was a man's head and shoulders. Another one of the weird things about that house was that my father would smell cherry tobacco smoke in the stairway. Both of my parents smoked at that time, but neither of them used cherry tobacco. We moved out of that house when I was 5 and of course moved into a house that was built in the 1800s. Scary place, I won't lie, but it was home. The basement of the place was dirt with a set of boarded up stairs that I never learned where they led to. Next to those stairs was a door that led to another dirt room with one window. I was terrified of that basement. I didn't learn how to do laundry for a long time because of it. Even before anything happened in that house, it gave me a weird vibe. My mother and sister would always joke about the children in the walls. I thought they were just joking around and trying to scare me. It was only later that they told me that they would hear sounds like children playing from the walls. But once they talked about it, it stopped. Great. Totally not scary at all. Nope. Not to mention the number of bats that could just break into the attic whenever they pleased. I only remember one experience from that house. There may have been more, but my memory has really gone out the window. I was alone in that big old house. My mom and dad were at work, and my sister was at a Halloween party. It was close to 9 p.m. and I was sitting on the couch in the living room watching some videos on my computer. Just to give a quick picture, the living room was huge, and I can only remember the couch and the TV. The couch was up against the wall, and across from the side of the couch was a window. My sister's door was in the living room, as well as the stairs up to my room and my parents' room. In the winter, I would sleep on the floor in my sister's room since we didn't have heating and it got ungodly cold upstairs. So I wasn't paying attention, drawn in by whatever I was watching, until I heard a noise that made me look up. It was a soft tapping on the window across from me. When I looked up, there was something in the window, a shadow of a head and shoulders. Something in my mind told me it was a young boy. I don't know why. I know it wasn't the reflection of my head in the window, because it would have been lit up by the computer screen. Something made me unable to move, either fear or just the difficulty of processing what was happening. It couldn't have been a person. That window was at least 10 feet off the ground. Honestly glad it wasn't a person. When I finally got the ability to move, I bolted into my sister's room and stayed there until someone came home. I don't think I told anyone for a while until my mom and my sister told me about the noises from the walls. We have since moved out, and nothing creepy has happened at the places I've lived since then.
So, today my boyfriend went on a bike ride around the neighborhoods surrounding our house. We'll call my boyfriend C. When he returned, he told me to put on some clothes and come with him. I got ready for the ride, and during this, I asked where we were going. C says that he found some creepy abandoned houses, and he is certain that one specific one is haunted. I ask him, "What makes you say that is haunted?" He tells me that while looking around the abandoned home, there was a noise from a bedroom that he is absolutely sure was not an animal. He would know. He gets wild animals out of people's houses at his job. He says he got out of there after that. Upon telling me this, I was given an eerie feeling, knowing that I was about to enter that home soon as well. Overall though, I've been super into paranormal/ghost story subreddits lately. So I was excited. So we bike over to the houses. The first one was in extremely bad condition. The floor was falling apart. A piece of the wall even crumbled underneath my hand as I was leaving. It was ultimately uneventful, and I didn't get too spooked. The next house, however, the one that C says he had the experience in, did have a much darker presence. For one, there was much more scattered items in the home, such as books, baby and family photos, clothes, miscellaneous things. In the room that C heard the noise in were even some scary dolls. We brought a tactical flashlight. Again, overall, it was rather uneventful for me, apart from seeing some cool items. C tells me that he wants to see if he can access the abandoned house next door, and he leaves me in the creepier house that we just explored. It felt like he was gone forever scouting out the next house. And I was uneasy being in there alone. I was even listening for any noises that sounded out of the ordinary, looking around the room as well. But I awkwardly stood in one spot the whole time. Nothing happened. And after 10 to 15 minutes of C trying to find a way inside the other house, he eventually came back and told me he would need a tool to get through the door. So we biked away, and I was very, very relieved to put some distance between me and those homes. This happened earlier this afternoon. C and I just got home from dinner. We were chatting about our interesting bike adventure earlier. He just told me, "You did really good all by yourself in that house. I only heard you call my name once." I stared and blinked at him in amazement. My stomach dropped. I told him, "See, I did not call your name a single time when you were gone. I stood in the same place in the doorway the whole time, silently." We were shook. I asked him what the voice sounded like. C says it was positively my voice calling out to him from the house I was still in. He says he heard me call his name in a concerned and worried sounding tone. So he came back to get me soon after. He also says that he felt like I was watching him through the window the whole time. When he came back for me, and I was still in the same place he left me in the doorway, he said that made him feel weird. This feels especially creepy because I've read that only demons can mimic people's voices. So I'm definitely never going back. Can anybody offer any more info on what entities can imitate someone else's voice? I don't think that I even called my boyfriend by his name while I was there. How could an entity know his name? And why did I also not hear the voice that C says clearly came from the house I was in?
I was walking my dog in the woods when I saw an old abandoned car. The taillights looked like the style from the 60s. I don't remember seeing this car here, and I walk the trails daily. I started approaching the car, but I got a creepy feeling, so I turned around and went back onto the trail. As I was walking away, I was wondering if somebody got killed during the crash. The car looks like it wasn't an accident. It would be cool to do an investigation near the car. So I get back onto the path and maybe walk 5 feet when I looked up, and there was a teenager wearing a green starter jacket, like the ones from the 80s, early 90s. I wasn't expecting to see anyone, so I screamed and said hello. Sorry about that. He waved. He was standing in the woods between myself and the car. One thing I found odd, my dogs didn't even notice him. They are hunting dogs and love people. When I screamed, the dogs stopped and just looked at me, but never noticed him. And another thing, there's no way teenagers nowadays would get caught wearing such an outdated clothing.